Hello and welcome. This is Julianne with Life Edit and Design. And today Canva's having a bad day. So we are going to do a quick time video and hopefully I can get myself in the best spot possible. So today we're talking about what is the first step of lifestyle design. And this is part of a series going into kind of a beginner's lifestyle design course. And so this video here is just going to be on the first step of lifestyle design. So let's dive in and see if Canva will work with us today. So what we're going to talk about briefly is how to again, what that first step is that self-reflection. Like you can't come up with lifestyle design if you don't know where you are. So this is establishing that map dot, like where am I today? And then lifestyle design gets you to where you want to go. But again, that very first step is where are you today? And so we're doing that self-reflection of what are the things that make you happy? And we'll be going through the happiness, the values, the priorities, the goals, and the identity. And those are the pieces of the self-reflection that will then create that foundation for you to build your lifestyle design process. So again, Canva is just unhappy today. So let's go through just some basics, and let me try putting myself over here. Maybe that's a little bit better. So basics, what is lifestyle design? It's all about creating that deliberate life, a life that's where you're in alignment with your values, your dreams, your goals, and it's not following the dictates of others. So whether society or your family or whoever told you this is the path, you're going to write your own path. That's what lifestyle design is all about. And it's really focusing on how you use your resources. So your time, your energy, your money. How are you going to use that with intention and not, again, going by somebody else's rules, but by your own blueprint, your own desires, how you want to live your life. So let's dive into that first piece, which is happiness. So what lights you up? So you want to make a list of all the things that make you happy. So this is kind of, again, establishing that map dot of where you are and kind of where you want to go. So these are the things you'd want more of in your life. So what lights you up? What really makes you happy? Or what do you do for other people that lights them up? Because a lot of times the key to our happiness is what we can do for others. And I don't mean that people pleasing to the point where you don't get to do your own thing. I just mean, when you do things for others, when you help somebody, when you teach somebody, when you help somebody else out. For me, it's like helping somebody have an aha moment. That lights me up. So it's something that's a win-win for both of us. So what are those things that you do that really light you up? And what lights up the people around you that you can do for them? And then another big clue of your happiness is, when do you find yourself smiling or laughing? Like, what are those things? For me, happiness is just dancing around to really good music. And I've noticed that really impacts my mood and makes me feel great. So some of my happiness list would include music, it would include being with others, it would include being creative, it would include reading books. So what are those things that really make you happy? So make a list of those. And then we'll go to the next one, which are, what are those values? So a lot of times when people see a values list, they're like, well, everything looks good. And it gets to be a hard exercise. And it really doesn't have to be, because there's no such thing as a bad value. There's just values that are right for you. So when you see your best self, when you look down the road and you see that person that you want to become, how do you behave? What do you do? Like, what are some of those things that will give you clues as to what your values are? And these other two, I really like these other two exercises because I think that you don't see them in values exercises too much. And I think that they really are impactful. So what makes you really angry? Like, sometimes looking at the flip side, the negative things really gives you a great clue as to what your values are. So when something makes you angry, when you watch something on TV or you hear somebody have a particular conversation and it really gets you angry, that means a value is being dishonored or violated or contradicted. So when you hear that, when you feel that tension come up and you're like, oh, that makes me angry. Why? What is that value underneath that is not being honored in that conversation or what you're hearing? And that's a great clue. So look for those things that make you angry and say, okay, what's underneath? What's that rub? Where is my value that is not being honored? And then another one is, what do you admire most, or who do you admire most? And this was a really cool exercise. So I hope that you'll take the time to do it. So I want you to make a list of just maybe 10 people that you really admire. They could be from history, they could be celebrities, they could be people you really know, people you don't know, doesn't matter. Just make a list of the 10 people you really admire. So hit pause and do that, because it has more of an impact when you hit pause and do that first. And so I'll wait a second. And we're back. So when you have that list of 10 people, I just thought this was so cool. Look at why you admire those 10 people, and those are values that you want to have. Those are values that you you're aspiring towards. So when you look at somebody like for me, like Joanna and Chip Gaines, they're just for me, I'm like, oh my God, how do these people just keep coming up with one idea after another and everything they do is a success? So for me, looking at that, the values are, this the creativity and the determination to stick with it and the courage to move when you don't know what you're doing, to move forward and to take on these projects that you're not even sure you're gonna be able to do. So for me, that's like those are big clues as to values that I want to have or that I want to embody. So when you look at that list, look at their values and see which ones are really lighting you up. And they're like, oh, I want that on my value list. And you look for those commonalities. When you start to look at all these people, is there some one or two characteristics or values that they all have in common? And that's a really good clue. So I find that this is a better way of doing the values exercise is, again, looking at things that make you angry and also looking at the people you admire, because it's a great clue as to what your values are. Okay, and the next one. Now let's look at the priorities. And I always go back to the Darren Hardy quote of you can tell what somebody's priorities are by looking at their planner. So look at your planner. What is giving the most time? What is the easiest thing for you to give your time to? And sometimes it's a priority. It's a priority regardless, but sometimes it's a priority you don't want to have going forward. So if like work always gets your time easiest, it's always there. You look at your planner, it's full of work things. Or if your kids are taking over your life and you just find yourself, being the shuttle, the constant driver going all over the place. Are those things that you want to keep in your life? So they're a priority because you're giving them your time, but is it a priority you want to keep or is it a priority you want to get rid of? So look at, who gets your time the easiest and decide if that's a good thing or not so good. And then think about those things when you say, oh, I wish I had more time. I wish I had more time for reading, or I wish I had more time to go for walks. That's, again, another clue of a priority that maybe is not getting the time that it needs. And so that's a priority you need to build in to reprioritize because it's not getting the airtime it needs. And then this is another good one. Again, I like looking at the negatives because sometimes it really uncovers some things, gives you some great insight. So what makes you feel guilty? For me, it's like having dessert, eating sugary sweets when I skip my workouts. And so that gives me a great clue that health is a big priority and one that I'm not always honoring because I'm doing some of these other things that are causing that friction. So look for those friction areas, and that's going to give you a really good idea of what your priority is and that you're maybe not giving it the airtime again that it needs. And then the last one is, what do you have absolutely no problem spending money on? Because that's a priority that's probably in alignment for you. So if you think that you always buy the best food when you go to the grocery store and you never have to think about it, or you spare no expense when you go on vacation, you always do it top shelf. Well, what's the priority there? Is the priority, again, health in the example of the food, or is it just in having the best experiences? Maybe a priority for you is just when you do things, you treat yourself. So it's a form of self-care of saying, I am worthy, I am valuable, and I deserve these high, top shelf things. When I do something, I do it this way. Again, those are all priorities. So start to jot them down because these are, again, great clues. So instead of just sitting there going, well, what are my priorities? Oh, family, faith, going through the list. These are actual real life priorities. These are not the ones society told you are important. These are the things that you actually do with your time and your energy and your money. And those, again, those are the resources that we use for lifestyle design. So how are you using it right now? And those are the priorities that you have. And do you want to keep them? Or are the things getting airtime on your schedule that you don't want to keep? So you have a list of your priorities. And now let's go into your goals. So what do you spend your time daydreaming about? And you might say, well, I daydream about being a rock star, and that's certainly not realistic. But maybe there's a clue there. So again, this is all about fact finding and clues. It's getting a chance to kind of look at your own mind and see what's going on there. So yeah, maybe being a rock star is not in your future. It certainly isn't in mine with the way I sing. But maybe the act of being up on stage could be in your future. Maybe you want to be a speaker of some sort. Maybe you want to be doing presentations, and maybe they don't have to be big. Maybe you want to be presenting at your church or your library or in front of a particular group that really has meaning to you. Or maybe you want to join Toastmasters. So look at those daydreams and see if there's an aspect or a way to make it a reality. Is there some angle on that makes it doable? That can become a really good goal. And then again, looking at that negativity, because it gives you a lot of insights. What makes you the most jealous? If you see somebody and they look like they have all the time freedom in the world and you're so jealous, well, that's a good goal. How do I carve out more free time? How do I work less? How do I make a bigger impact using less time? Look at what things are out there. Like if somebody's driving a particular car, is that a goal for you? Or is the goal maybe the financial wherewithal to be able to afford the car? Maybe you don't care about the car, but you care about that financial benchmark that says you could afford that car if you wanted it. So look at the things that make you jealous, because there's a good clue in there that there's some goals that you could go after. And then the last one is, what would you do if you had no responsibilities and no obstacles, you couldn't fail? What would you do? And this one I always struggle with. I don't know why, when I can come up with answers to the other two, and then this one I go, I don't know. So allow yourself to sit with the answers for a day, or sit with the questions for a day or two, because sometimes it's just not obvious what that answer is, and you may have to kind of come back to that. So just, again, it goes back to that daydream. If there were no limits and there was nothing that I could fail at, what would I do? So you'll have now a goals list, priorities, values, and things that make you happy list. And when it comes to your identity, now you're looking for, where do these all cross over? What's the intersection of all these different lists that you have? Is there a common theme? And this becomes your identity. And so I don't want your identity to be thought of as, I am a mom, or I am a bookkeeper, or whatever it is. I am a social media, whatever. That's not the kind of identity we're going for. Here we're going for, I'm a person who. So I'm a person who takes care of my family, or I am a person who prioritizes their health, or I am a person who takes the time to give back to others. Like, that's kind of the identity we're looking for, is like, who is that person that has these values, these goals, these dreams, and that does these different things to make themselves happy. And you'll see a theme as you start to look at your list, put them side by side and look at them all and see what is that theme? What runs through all this? What's that priority that, if anything else was put aside, this would be the one that would still stand? Like, maybe health is just your number one priority, or your family is your number one priority. Whatever it is, maybe it's your contribution to the community. Whatever that is, you start to see a theme, and that starts to shape your identity. So again, this is not going to be an instant thing. You're not going to do this at 12, 13 minutes we've got on video here. But this will give you clues as to kind of that map dot, where you're starting. And then when you have that starting point, you can start to look at, again, I'm kind of blocking the screen, so I apologize, but what parts of your life are in alignment? So when you look at this identity and you look at your priorities, what's in alignment already in your life, and then what's not in alignment? So again, that schedule, who's getting time on your schedule that's really not a priority? Is work taking over too much of your life, and your kids or your health are not getting the airtime it needs on your schedule? So what needs to change? So you're looking at what's in alignment, what's not in alignment, and what needs to change. And that's what the lifestyle design process does from here. So this is that first part of kind of establishing, what do you want to build your life around? What are these core foundational pieces that you're then going to build around? And some key concepts that we want to make sure that you know about. This never ends. This is not, let's just do this exercise and you're done. You're going to do this all the time. And maybe you come back once a year to review your values, your priorities, your goals, because things could change. Or another good time is, after any big life change, go back and look what has shifted, what goals have shifted, what priorities have shifted as a result of some major lifestyle change. And keep refining and adjusting your plans. The whole thing is about experimenting, trying stuff out, seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work. And when you find something that doesn't work, it's like, good, that's clarity. That's just another piece of clarity of something you no longer need to think about, you no longer need to worry about, because it's not going to be for you. And enjoy the journey. That is the whole point of this, right? This life is to be enjoyed, and this is not supposed to be a task. So approach this as a game. Like, this is fun. I get to figure this out. I get to tinker. I get to experiment to find out what works for me. And the next step, if you haven't watched these other videos, the basic of what is lifestyle design and the overview of the lifestyle design process, which again, this is just the first step, but if you want to look at all 5 steps, there's 2 other videos. I'll put the links down below. And I apologize for having to record it this way, but again, Canva was having a really bad day. So here we are. All right, well, take care, and we'll see you in the next video.